How interesting. I wish you a swift recovery. In the meanwhile, you have my full cooperation, and the full cooperation of the Wild Pines group.
It's hard to get a read on her precise disposition, but she appears helpful.
What we do? I'm afraid I don't speak for Wild Pines as a whole. It's a job. The Pines' core competency is logistics. Container shipping, freight, that sort of thing. See those airships there, blinking? Those are the shipping side of things. And that is the terminal. Another subdivision deals with energy, oil and gas exploration. Offshore platform. I'm not at liberty to discuss the company balance sheet, but I can tell you that last year, the company booked more than 20 billion...
A billion?
And to think, there are years when the group books losses in the billions. Wild Pines employs 72,000 people, all of whom have families that depend on their salaries. It is a tremendous responsibility. They started as an exploration and cargo fleet conducting trade between the Samaran and Insulindian Isolas 250 years ago, when Pine ships explored the South Seminese and charted Lomantang on behalf of the suzerain. Centuries of care, deliberation, and madness. You mean aside from being the terminal's legal owners? Who are responsible for moving 8% of the world's cargo?
She nods.
Everything. Right up to, but not including, trade secrets. I believe the official title is Senior Labor Negotiator. In practice, I'm a grocery clerk. I relay the union's demands to Wild Pines and return with Wild Pines' counteroffer.
And how are the talks going?
They're not. That's the problem. The union stopped all negotiations a week ago, after that awful lynching took place. Now they won't even let me into the harbour. There's a 2-meter-20 racist behemoth blocking the gates. What can I say? The union employs a giant covered in tattoos. A racist giant. I guess that's part of their big tent organization now. Let's say I was not making the kind of progress I'd hoped for when I first arrived.
And when did you first arrive?
I arrived 3 weeks ago. Yes, in the middle of February. The bay was still partially frozen then. I prefer to do these things on site, like the RCM.
But the strike began in December.
I wasn't the original negotiator here. I took over after Mr. Gaumont hit a wall with Mr. Clare, the union boss. Mr. Clare refused to speak with Gaumont despite concessions he'd granted the union in prior negotiations.
This isn't the first time the union has gone on strike?
Heavens no. There have been 2 prior strikes. Both times the union won significant concessions, including overtime pay and a medical plan. This time their demands are more, I guess you could say, aggressive. There are leaflets everywhere, and banners. Every worker, a member of the board. In its defense, another said, demand democracy. Pretty tame stuff compared to every worker, a member of the board. Fortunately, they explained it. Every time the Wild Pines group makes a decision about anything, it needs the signature of each of the 2,200 workers in its Martinez terminal. Just so you understand, this is but one of 22 terminals owned by Wild Pines. Essentially, I'm not sure. Naturally, I assume that was just their opening position, a hard-nosed tactic with a side of mockery. But there's been no follow-up, just the same nonsensical slogan repeated over and over. And now, people are getting lynched, I hear. Behind the whirling in rags. A disastrous situation if there ever was one.
Excuse me, from whom did you hear about this lynching?
I first heard it from the boyar at the gates. The one whose very name advertises his aversion to work. I think he said it was, "Call me mañana."
This checks out.
Everard Clare is a man of the utmost integrity. If you can say one thing about him, it's that he always puts the interests of the workers first. Of course not. Everard is fantastically corrupt. I imagine he has a thick, viscous goo where you and I have blood. He is the most corrupt individual I have ever seen, and I deal with men like him for a living. If there is anyone more venal, more irredeemably nepotistic, then it's his twin brother, Edgar. Yes, Edgar looks exactly like his brother, except for that lazy eye. He also talks exactly like Everard does, and when one's term as foreman is up, the other takes over. It's how they circumvent the term limits, you see, with a funny little switcheroo. While in office, they've embezzled God knows how much of their workers' dues. The Débardeurs Union was once a perfectly normal institution. 20 years ago, anyway. It must not have been easy to establish under the Emergency Act, but they did it. I can respect that. Organised labour at its best, as they say. Then something happened in the local chapter elections. The brothers Clare came and transformed it into a... how do you say?
A mob. The Débardeurs are a crime syndicate. Sad as it may be, I suspect we'll be forced to cooperate with them.
Refreshingly honest, officer. The company has tried appeasing in the past, but I'm afraid our concessions have only emboldened Everard and his brother. And your opinion, Detective, if I may ask? I'm a curious and talkative person, you see. Would you say the Débardeurs Union is... Thank you for being candid. Sadly, Wild Pines have cooperated with what amounts to a crime syndicate for 2 decades. However much you feed the wolf always hungers. Mr. Clare told him to... how did he put it? Fuck off, midget. Gaumont is short of stature, you see. Keep in mind, this is a negotiator Mr. Clare has worked with before, and who was more than fair with him and the Union.
Sounds like usual aggressive posturing.
I'm glad you asked. There was a woman, the previous forewoman of the Union. She disappeared.
Disappeared?
Yes. On the last day of the local chapter elections, her daughter phoned in and said she wasn't running anymore, or coming to work. Ever, indeed. The company suspects foul play, but there's nothing they could do. It was a union matter. The point of the presentation is, these kinds of things happen around the Clares. Watch out when you're dealing with him.
Thank you for your concern, ma'am. We'll be just fine.
Of course. How? Why, yes I am. Of course there are. We're on an archipelago. How else are you supposed to get around? Yes, we are. We are on Le Caillou.
She nods attentively.
The boat? No. It is called Cor de Leyte 19 because that's the type of sloop it is.
The word "it" feels strange. Such a beautiful boat deserves a proper name. A breeze ripples through the sails and tugs at your hair. Below, the sleek, fish-like shape of the hull parts the water. Beneath that, a resounding darkness.
It's a pleasure craft, a 19-pacer. It also happens to be rated for Category 1 racing. Though these days I make my sloop, I like it a lot. It's the eel's hips, baby.
I'm enjoying this part of the interview. It has so little to do with the murder we investigate.
I really do, the lieutenant thinks. Is she thrown off yet? He's looking at the woman.
Officer, I assure you I'm a highly qualified pleasure craft operator.
The crowns of her teeth are porcelain, white as the boat's hull as she smiles. Qualified pleasure craft operator. So charming. Where's the...
I just renewed its safety inspection last month, officers. It is completely seaworthy. In fact, it's taken part in not one, but two in...
Actually, you don't. It is a little-known fact among those who police that the Wayfarer Act specifically denies the RCM the authority to demand anyone's operator license. No need to politicize this. You may still ask for the lady's passport.
You need to save face if you want her respect. Demand that passport.
Of course.
The woman is silent, smiling while the waves lap against the hull. In your hand, under the plastic, a light blue passport saying, Republic of Vespa. The coat of arms has a lion and an ostrich. Seagent. The woman, born in the year 3 in the commune of Revachol, smiles at you. Face adorned with frown lines and crow's feet. The photo is recent. The name reads, Rejoice Leighton Messier.
Yes. But please don't call me that. Joyce is much more efficient.
She doesn't like it. Probably a bad memory. Mean girls at school or some ancient lover.
My husband is. I have dual citizenship. A Vespertine is handier when traveling.
She nods and returns the plastic bag to her coat.
Good. Quite a few things, I'm afraid. The information I'm to share with you includes sensitive trade secrets. For the sake of my employer, I have to ask for your names and badge numbers.
Of course, ma'am. We should have introduced ourselves. I am Lieutenant Kitsuragi from Precinct 57. And this is my colleague from Precinct 41. I'm afraid he doesn't have his badge at the moment. I hope mine will suffice.
How curious. Why is that, Detective?
Awkwardness washes over the conversation. The woman doesn't like this turn of events.
I see. So, are you saying you lost your badge during the course of this episode? I can't hear you, darling. Speak up, please. Oh dear. I suppose this does explain some of the more curious turns in our conversation.
As I said, ma'am, his technique may be very unconventional, but he is an officer of the RCM.
Of course, I sympathize, but I'm afraid I simply can't share anything more until I've seen that badge.
Hang on. She's a professional negotiator. She should be open to some sort of mutually favors for favors. A dirty alliance of some sort. Feelings will guide the way.
I assure you, it is no small matter for me either. We all share the responsibility for disarmament. Trust me, officer, I am fully...
She's silent. The wind flaps the sail above her.
Officer. You know, I don't mean to sound cold, but if you want something, you have to give something back. More.
You're doing it, despite your own best efforts.
I'll be frank with you. If I'm going to... The Union is conducting drug trade out of the harbour. It's an open secret in Martinez. Surely it must not come as a complete surprise to the RCM either. Perhaps it's time to look into it. Or you can find your badge, which honestly seems like a lost cause.
Detective, a word in private before we continue. This is not going quite as I hoped it would, did it? Honestly, I was expecting you to use your unorthodox technique to keep her off balance and, not volunteer us to be her henchman. This woman is running circles around us. She might have known about your misplaced badge all along, or she's simply an adept improviser. Either way, we've played straight into her hands.
He doesn't let it show, but there is a limit to how much the consequences of your unprofessional behavior can cost the investigation.
I'm sure you will, Detective. Oh, that would be fantastic, but do we have the time? The world is large and your badge is 8 by 6 centimeters. You could request a new one from your station, but that would literally take months. No, if there is reasonable suspicion, we must investigate. Otherwise, she could claim we are siding with the Union, or that we are on their take. We'd never hear the end of it. What I propose is, we ask her, then we investigate, briefly. But do not share the outcome of this investigation with her. We tell her it's done and demand for her information on the lynching.
You're back. Good. Well, it's quite straightforward. Someone is using Terminal B to smuggle raw ingredients from the Samaran Isola into Revachol with the Union's blessing. Wild Pines has suspected it for years.
Ingredients for what, ma'am?
Meth and dextroamphetamine, GBL, and various synthetic psychedelics. Honestly, it might be quicker to say what you can't make from the stuff. Yes, but you won't get anything out of Evrat and the Dockworkers Union. Still, every chain has its weak link. The lorries. Someone needs to move the ingredients from the harbour into the city. Once they reach Jamrock, they're distributed to a network of local manufacturers, well beyond our grasp. But in transit, they are vulnerable. Perhaps you've noticed that a number of lorries are tangled in a traffic jam at the roundabout just now. Interview the drivers who are still hanging about. One of them might be waiting for a crucial shipment. I'll be explicit. If you find this driver, I will share company secrets with you.
You'll be indebted to her, in a way, but one step ahead of the Union in another.
How do you think they're financing this strike? There are thousands of unpaid dock workers going strong for the 4th month straight.
There was a shakedown of local businesses preceding the strike. Many were squeezed to bankruptcy to fund it.
With all due respect to these desert cacti, the contents of a few cash registers cannot provide for 2,000 men. Precisely. Smuggled out of that very gate at night, most likely, then loaded onto lorries and driven to Jamrock. You simply need to find one driver who will open up to you.
It sounds like she tried looking into it herself, but she's clearly not the type your typical lorryman would confide in.
No. We asked East Motor Track to raise the drawbridge. The road company is a partner of one of our subsidiaries. However, this is a limited time opportunity. Once the complaint has been processed by the Trade Committee, they'll have no choice but to lower the drawbridge, and the operation will continue. Thousands of litres of raw ingredients will pour onto the streets of Revachol. Not the east across the river, but the west. The vulnerable, the weary.
Well, at least this solves one mystery.
What is that, Lieutenant?
Why I had to call East Motor Track and beg them to open a drawbridge for me. I'd wondered since I first drove in, on my motor carriage.
I am sorry for the inconvenience, Lieutenant Kisaragi, but we need them trapped here. This is a unique opportunity. I'm sure you understand. We did, on more than one occasion. Apparently, there's some sort of inter-precinct disagreement about whose jurisdiction this area falls under.
We know the company has launched its own probe into the Union's alleged involvement. We also know it's come up empty. It's not just the RCM. No one's been able to find any hard evidence.
Well, here's your chance, officers. Yes? Excellent. According to my reports, there are at least 3 lorry drivers lingering near the roundabout. Hopefully one of them will know something. It may come to nothing, or it may just blow the case wide open. I can keep the drawbridge up for a few more days at least. You should have the time you need. In the meantime, let me know if there's any other way I may be of assistance. Of course, Detective.
This is a wall on the side of an apartment building. You have no clue. So many walls all over Martinez.
It's been a week and now they show up?
There must be another way into the building.
Can't get involved in this. So much for a quiet smoke. I knew I should have quit. Hey, what's that noise down there?
This coin-operated viewer is facing south.
Have you no shame? Whining about your back every time you bring out the measuring tape.
René, you're a man with a fork in a world of soup. Please, let's just try to enjoy the game, alright?
I'm trying to, but you keep breaking my concentration. You're old. I can see that. We're both old. Now stop.
These manly men are playing balls. This is a ball game. No, you got this. There's the ball. You're the game. You are immediately surprised by the ball's lack of weight. God, this is right. You feel the familiar tremble of excitement and adrenaline that...
Merde! Bordel de merde! What the hell is your problem? I don't care if you are a cop. You do not just ruin someone's game. It's so goddamn disrespectful.
A man his age getting worked up like that? Better watch that blood pressure.
You vandalized our game, son. We can't play pétanque with 5 bull. No, no you don't. Our pétanque game is ruined. We want our bull back.
Take it easy, René. This is just a misunderstanding, isn't it, officer? No harm done.
Of course there's harm done, you orange slug. You are as a goddamn bull. A fine example you are setting here today, officer. I will remember this. And Gaston will too.
It's okay, officer. Forgotten completely. It was my bull, and I have a spare. Everything is good, and we're ready to assist any way we can.
He's trying to avoid conflict at any cost. The lieutenant says nothing, but his face is rigid. It seems he does not approve of your athletic displays. It's your refusal to take responsibility I don't like. Just talk. It'll smooth things over. Old people like attention.
Yes. The terrain here provides an interesting variety to a familiar game. Yes. It was left by heavy artillery fire. Why what? Because that's what happens when communists hijack your country, execute your supreme leadership, and turn your capital into a slaughter. Sadly, no. It was the foreigners who brought them to their knees. We fought valiantly. Too valiantly. So valiantly we got licked. Should have fought dirty, like they did with their suicide sex cult propaganda and mad anarchist women strapped to shrapnel bombs. Because this place is a damn beachhead. Had to soften the commies up first. Yes, the military coordinated amphibious landing to take back Revachol.
He finds your lack of historic knowledge troubling, a sign of mental deterioration in the preceding generations.
Martinez was used as one of the 3 footholds in Revachol during Operation Deathblow in '08. This here is Blood Ground, where coalition boots first made landfall and cleaned those rabid dogs out. Most likely, we're playing pétanque on their mangled corpses.
Blood ground. You got old René going there. Like he isn't hungry enough already.
Damn right, son. They laid the fire of hell on the city before they stormed it. And it worked, too.
He approves of this radical approach, knows it was necessary.
The rest of the city got cleaned up, but Martinez they keep as a monument. And now the Union Socialists are practically running the place.
Well, it's your own damn fault. You, we, the coalition, Revachol, whoever you want to blame, never finished the job. Officially, the party never surrendered. Of course they still hold influence.
You don't even begin to truly understand the players on the table. let alone the specific circumstances surrounding the... I'm sorry it had to be them. After 8 years of fighting those hyenas, boiling cats for food and drinking piss in the mountains, I would have preferred if the Right Honorable King Guillaume returned through Revachol, or even if that damn clan Frisel had risen from the grave and led us. Sadly, that was not the case.
This royal failure weighs heavily on him.
Instead, all that is just, holy, and beautiful in the world was wiped away, and now it's neon signs with toothpaste ads everywhere. This is just what the commies wanted. This was the plot. The suzerain is the king. Has everyone forgotten already? They've forgotten already.
Soon, they will forget everything. Him too. Then he chooses anger over melancholy.
It's no use talking to you. You were still in Daddy's balls when it happened. When we took our last stand against the filth and rode the cavalry straight into gunfire. Unfortunately, I don't. In Martinez, the Union is the law, so can you really blame them? Cop is a pejorative term. I don't have a problem with policemen. On the contrary, I admire the effort to bring order to our streets. If I knew, I would not be afraid to tell you. I simply don't. I'm an old man, not a coward. The daily business of the riffraff no longer concerns me.
This is a man with a lot of past, but little present, and almost no future. The worn and beaten wooden planks of the bench do not look overly comforting.
We can sit on benches after we've solved the murder. Let's go.
You can revisit the bench if you ever need to pass the time when Lieutenant Kitsuragi is gone.
An old call box with a matrix of push buttons lists all the companies in the East Delta Commerce Center. An off-key melody starts playing after you ring the doorbell. Then a woman picks up the receiver.
Kuno, please stop calling here. Grown-ups don't have time for your stupid games. Oh, I'm sorry, officer. I thought you were... But the doorbell is broken, and the bookstore shouldn't even be on the list anymore, so I can't help you. Please don't call here again. Thanks.
A single beep indicates that the line has gone dead. You ring the doorbell, but no one answers. Just seeing the words Andro Orlando gets your hackles up. Its very existence is a threat to your masculinity, to say nothing of your hair. All you hear is static, but no one answers the call. You ring the doorbell, but nothing happens. You wait for a minute or two, but all you get from the call box is silence. Looks like someone has melted half the plastic off with a lighter. The doorbell, you hear static from the intercom speaker. It sounds as if someone has picked up the receiver, but isn't saying anything.
Yes, hello. This is Tricentennial Electric. Have you come to place your... Oh my God.
The lieutenant exchanges a look with...
It's you. Oh my God. I didn't think I would hear your voice.
It's a woman, and she knows you. Your heart beats faster. No, Something's wrong here. Are you sure she's talking to you?
Michelle, just please.
Sounds like a ghost. Wind blows through your clothes and you feel detached from your surroundings. Inside the building, a cold memory hangs.
Why did you even call? I don't understand. You've been gone for months. I thought you didn't care. Ever since I came to work here, it's been different. As if my mind's been wiped clean.
A spot of static overrides her words. When she speaks again, it sounds like she's submerged.
It's so nice. It's so nice.
She sounds like she's about to cry. The cold is deep under your skin, as if you were talking to someone who's 100 years away. Somewhere inside the building, water is flooding the cellar floor. She doesn't answer. Silence. The only thing you can hear now is static and waves washing ashore on the bay. Another seagull passes by. It's getting cold standing here.
I don't know what happened either. We should probably stop playing with this thing.
You press the number sign on the keypad that terminates the call. 12. Silence. No one's home at Fortress Accident. Silence. No one answers the doorbell. Nothing happens after you ring the doorbell. Silence. No one answers your call.
What do you see?
The RCM in Martinez. What can I help you with? We don't see a lot of police around here, that's all. Of course. What? Sure, I'm done with it. Go easy on that stuff. It gave me a terrible headache. Excuse me?
She's uncomfortable. Maybe you should drop this line of questioning.
Oh. Well, I didn't write it there. I'm just sitting here. I don't know anything about that either. As I said, I didn't write it.
Even if she didn't write it, she should clean it.
Okay.
She's probably not gonna do it.
Since the street sign's messed up? Okay. What do you mean? Yes, sir. District of Martinez. This intersection is called Roundabout North.
He knows where we are. He just wants directions.
No problem. Of course.
Her gloves. You get the feeling that you need them. You have a dead body to...
Sure. Keep them. I have an...
There he still is, looking right through you with his white eyes. The body below is entirely dedicated to that corpse smell. Emitting it, you crack open the ammonia ampoule and breathe in. The odor of death is still stronger. It's a spell of the mind telling you to run, and your stomach to wring itself empty. With your eyes squinting, you stand in it.
They do after 7 days, yes. We are deep in decomposition here.
The man before you is naked, but for a pair of underpants and enameled boots. His skin is greenish, marbled with decaying veins and blotched by lividity. A fading web of tattoos covers his chest and shoulders. The cargo belt used to fasten him to the branch above appears industrial in strength. The material appears to be ceramic. Its clean white stands in stark contrast to the decaying flesh above the knee. The man wore thick polymer socks, probably for padding. A fine array of interlocking plates covers them. Delicate and fragile, they feel alien to the world around you, out of place somehow.
They are armor, no boots. Technically speaking, these are sabatons. Ceramic plate, zirconium dioxide most likely. This is where the make would be. Under the heel, fair weather model T500 VE. I'm guessing that's vitreous enamel. This is advanced stuff. It is. It's expensive. We've requested similar material for our tactical units for years now. The constabularies deemed it too costly. In that time, we've lost 6 men to semi-automatics. For a full set, about 4 years of wages. By catching, do you mean, let's not log them as evidence? Let's steal them?
What was that about the constabulatory before? You need...
Of course. The locals probably scavenged it. It would be odd if he had more on after 7 days. We should keep a lookout for these pieces. The armor could yield information.
If you wear those pieces, it will help me protect your mortal coil.
No, he must have worn something precious underneath his clothes. They've removed all his clothes to get to it. They did not just strip him for the putrid rags. Someone could have cleaned the yard, but that's a question for the red hat thing.
I hear you, cop, talking shit about the Kuno. Come here and say it to Kuno's face. You wanna fuck me, huh? You wanna fuck the Kuno?
Ignore. Say no more. This is about the corpse and inspecting it.
They usually hang them completely naked for that. La puta madre, the Mazda, the Besmerties and the like. This one still has his underpants.
What? Are you trying to ignore me now, fuckface?
Kuno, this boots shit is super boring and the guy's a total vitupaz.
That's for us to find out. My initial report on the area suggests he was a security guard for the harbor company, but that's just hearsay. I agree. This equipment is way beyond what a guard can afford.
A small bell-like sound fills the air, like tapping on the side of a porcelain cup. Suddenly, your biceps coil up. Your elbow is sharp and cocked for a punch.
It's anything but. This material is a kinetic redistributor. It spreads kinetic energy horizontally, from plate to plate, dissipating it entirely. See?
Faint, organic lines cover the plates where they separate into smaller ones. These plates then divide into smaller plates until there are hundreds of them altogether. Like the scales of some ancient white monster, cracked and pearly. This feels dangerous. The stench fills your nostrils. As you push downward, an ominous creaking sound comes from above.
Stop! Pig's gonna pull his head off.
You're about to pull his head off.
Do it, homo!
Yes, that's what I said. You'll compromise the coroner's case if you do. So please, don't. What are you trying to achieve anyway? Why are you hanging on to that boot? Maybe we should concentrate on what's outside the boot and leave what's inside to the boys at processing? Just this once. Besides, there's no way you're getting them off. All the organic matter in his body has been flowing down into the boots. They are fused to his feet now. Why do you think the locals haven't scavenged them yet?
You're sure there's a way to peel them off, but first the body needs to be down. And second, it would probably be better if the lieutenant wasn't around. The anticipation makes you crack your fingers. Feels nice. Nice and cracky.
Processing will take care of them. With the situation in the morgue, it will yield nothing. But we must pick our fights. Should we continue?
The cadaver slowly twists on the cargo belt, his torso covered in tattoos, and extremities blotched pink and blue. The hangman's knot is pulled tight by the weight of the corpse below. Yellow, hard-edged polyester cuts into his neck. Above, a sliding buckle ties the belt to the branch. Oh my, there's something on the belt. A familiar word that speaks to the thirst within you. Vermilion, in yellow letters, along the length of the twisting cargo belt. Only a deep longing for vermilion golden spirits lets you decipher the fading logo of the local brewery.
Extremely. Industrial strength, the kind used for tying cargo to lorries.
Like in a circus, when the circus leaves town and they tie a black-spotted giraffe to the wall of a carry pen.
Yes, it looks like they use whatever was on hand, paying no attention to not incriminating themselves. The brief suggested as much, politically motivated by the ongoing strike. Did you not get a briefing? Then you should ask me the first moment we get. It's not merely polyester, it's steel reinforced. See these lines? This is where the wires run. I see rabbits for more than 20 strands. This makes getting him down much more problematic than I had assumed. A noose is one of those things that's easier to use one way around. I think they lassoed the branch, then pulled on the belt, buckle closes. It's what I would do. Seems easier than climbing up there. A noose is one of those things that's easier to use one way around. I think they lassoed the branch, then pulled on the belt, buckle closes. It's what I would do.
The cadaver hangs from the cargo belt, limbs limp and torso covered in tattoos. An intricate web of blue lines stretches across the torso, from the right shoulder to the solar plexus. Each time they intersect, a small white star is formed in their crossing. Hundreds of fading asterisks riddle his skin. Their concentration is highest around his heart. His corpse is marked by stars. Alcohol and heartbreak. Your fist clenches suddenly. Decay is creeping on the tattoo. Already, most of the canvas that's holding it has darkened. Now, it disintegrates slowly, letting out a stink.
A map of the stars. I do see some similarity to astronomical charts. Great century Messinian, maybe. But this seems more particular. Customized somehow.
As if someone left out most of the night sky, filtering it through personal choice. The principle of this filter remains unknown to you. The thought dissipates, and you feel as though you were only half right.
So am I.
He takes a thin piece of milled aluminium from his coat pocket and pulls it open. Sounds like a sword being unsheathed, a small lens appears, some sort of camera.
Shit, Kuno! What the fuck is that?
An instant color camera.
This is the first time he openly acknowledges the kid's existence.
I have only 2 ampoules, so nobody move. I don't want to waste one.
A sound, a shrill flash, followed by the breaking of a small ampoule of glass. You see streams of color pour onto the thick, glossy piece of paper, rolling out.
In case we need it. Yes, it is pretty cool, isn't it? It contains insight to the victim's person. By his build, I'd say this was a man of physical violence. Sure, just don't lose it.
The glassy-eyed corpse looks by, his mouth mute and his skin as colorful as the chemical rainbow on the photo paper, teeming with opportunistic organisms.
You've acquired an interactable item. Investigate this item further by going to the Interact tab in your inventory.
His eyes are milky white and blind to the world, protruding comically from their sockets. There is no one home, just subaquatic terrors there. Dark brown hair grows on his head. His face is ready to explode from the organic processes inside. The death's head grin has passed. What remains is an unrecognizable mess. Underneath the curdled meat there is an expression, not carried on his features, but below, inside, an expression of pleasure. This man was experiencing joy at the moment of his death.
I'm gone. Maybe I was getting my rocks off. Do I look like an erotic auto-asphyxiation type, Captain Coppodromo? I fear we are drifting away, fixating on sexuality again. I'm a joke. Look at me. A killer. A motherfucker. And a killer.
Takes one to know one.
Go ahead, Cop. Into the wild pale yonder. In the past, way out in the west. What do you mean? It's the power of your imagination.
Yeah, man! Don't be crazy! Inanimate objects and dead people can't really talk to you. Your wild imagination is doing this. Ask some more of those questions you love so much.
He loves those. Do I remind you of someone? There you go. Look at that bright kid. We're birds of a feather, you and I. Soon you will be just like me. Just keep drinking and having a good time. It's
feeling nausea, vomiting, tenderness or pain around the liver area, tiny red lines on the skin above waist level, more like days, Coppo. The clock is ticking. Your liver tells you so.
Come back later, Corpo. Amuse yourself with my frank manners and my memento mori features. If possible, also, see me in your dreams.
As you narrow your eyes, the monster before you blurs into a violent mess of green and pink. Only the lower extremities are pink with a dash of blue. His fatted hands, thighs, and his neck. The cadaver slowly twists on the cargo belt, his torso covered in tattoos, and extremities blotched pink and blue.
Are you sure we finished the preliminary examination of the cadaver? We might miss some of these things once he's done.
The cadaver slowly twists on the cargo belt, his torso covered in tattoos, and...
Of course. Because you're a copperoonie. Coming right up, copperoonie. Fuck no. You're no Rooney. Between you and me, your name is probably Harry. You might be onto something there. Love did me in, Brother Copo. It was love all along. Because you have. Sure, Lobo. I can ask you a question. Why are you doing this? Looking at my face, motionless, looking into my eyes, standing here. Why are you investigating my murder? I am all you have. Then you truly lost it all, brother. Let the world drag it all away from you. And what it left, you pissed away. Come back later, Corpo.
The steel-reinforced belt presents a unique challenge. I brought chain cutters, but I don't see a good angle of approach to the belt. The cadaver is a good 1.2 meters up. Neither one of us can reach the belt without assistance. And even if we do, there's the question of cutting it. We are not getting him down already. Not getting him down is a task that's already accomplished. Sadly, it's not our job to keep him up there, but to get him down.
How do you plan to get him down, then? With social sensibility? Are you going to educate him down?
Climb up there and saw the branch? I don't trust that ladder. The assailants didn't use it. It's rotten and less sturdy than it looks. And I don't see another good way up there. Honestly, I prefer a non-acrobatic solution to this. There has to be a less risky way, with less falling down of trees. I was really hoping we wouldn't. The Union appeared to be suspect in this case. It seems like a dangerous route to go down.
Confirmed. It's unsafe. But what other options?
Someone else? You mean like the police? Someone like a paid garbage man? Or a cleaning crew? I have bad news for you. That is a detective. I know it's hard, but I assure you, the others won't come to help us. And we have a growing sanitary concern here. We need to get him down, fast.
Yeah! Bang bang time, pig! Shoot his head off!
How? It absolutely will not, officer. That's not how physics work. It will maybe cut one thread loose.
Yeah, now we're talking. Entertain the Kuno with some shit.
They'll miss! The pigs will miss Kuno!
The lieutenant is undecided. On one hand, he wants to shoot some gun. On the other, it's an awfully stupid idea. Silence. With his elbow sharp, the lieutenant unzips his jacket and produces a lightweight firearm. He drops a paper cartridge in the barrel, separates the scouring stick, and gives the cartridge 5 tucks. He then steps back and assumes the fellow's desk position, taking aim.
He's gonna fucking miss!
The kid's voice is drowned in a shrill blast that echoes off the walls of the surrounding tenements. A cloud of smoke slowly parts in the air as the lieutenant steps back and says to himself,
God damn it.
He feels bad about his eyes mostly, just having bad eyesight, probably from a young age. Whatever you do, do not console him.
Fucking idiot! Mukabat asshole!
Kuno could have hit it easy, but then Kuno's not fucking handicapped, is he?
I have to say, it's beginning to look unlikely we can get him down without assistance.
An intricate web of blue lines stretches across the torso of the hanged man, from the right shoulder to the solar plexus. Each time the lines intersect, a small white star is formed in their crossing. Hundreds of fading asterisks riddle his skin. Their concentration is highest around his heart. It still kind of looks like a map of the stars in the night sky, but something's not right. Gone. For you to discover. You've gotten as far as you will without assistance. Someone close to the victim might know.